Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of MTG Arena Top 10. And it's March right now. Wishing everyone Kagsamayag Pesak. If you understand, that's good. In any case, I want to start this time by talking about top 10 cards that didn't make it to Time Spiral Remastered, and there are so many cards that didn't make it. It's kind of what you expect out of compressing 3 sets down to one set. I can't really talk about every card that didn't make it, so I'm pretty sure there are so many cards that you guys want to talk about. Don't forget to put that up in the comments if you have any ideas for that. But here are the ones that are notable here. So we're only going to cover cards that are on Time Spiral, Planar Chaos, Future Sight. We're not covering the original Time Spiral time shifted sheet, and we're not going to talk about possible inclusions on the new time shifted sheet. So this is strictly just cards from the original 3 Time Spiral sets. Now, most notably, these are all the slivers that did not make it. The short of it is that they decided to focus slivers on red, green, and white, just so that otherwise the set is gonna be like 40 to 50% slivers, and it's gonna be a very, very big mess to draft. And with that, I agree. So for the most part, you're seeing every black and blue sliver, and there's Venture's Sliver, which pretty much was just there to mess with your opponent who was playing slivers. But there are a few exceptions to this. Here are the ones that are on the exceptions. So Frenetic Sliver obviously does not make it because this one is just annoying. Basically, you have to have flip a coin. If you win the flip, remove the creature, return it to play at the end of turn. If you lose the flip, sacrifice it. And the weird thing about this is you can basically keep flipping until you actually win the flip. How, you ask? Well, simple. In fact, what you can do is basically not during resolution, but what you can do is you can arbitrarily... Actually, no, that's even not correct here. But there's a weird part there where you can basically just put a ton of these triggers on the stack, so you can be flipping coins ad infinitum. Also, not exactly the hallmark of great play there. No, there is no loophole with that one. That one's just me wishful thinking. But Ghost Flame Sliver, here's another one that didn't quite make it. Just making slivers colorless, not very big impact. Opaline Sliver, whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell an opponent controls, you may draw a card. Probably too good. I have to agree with that one. And Quill Sliver, now this one's the one really annoying. Basically, if you thought on-board combat tricks are very annoying, especially when you miss them, imagine when you have to pay attention to, okay, my opponent has a bunch of slivers, I'm going to attack. They block. Oh, by the way, I'm going to tap this sliver, tap the sliver, tap the sliver, deal this damage to your sliver. Not good. Not fun times. That said, with so many slivers that did make it, we're not exactly missing the boat here. So these are not going to be in the top 10. But we are going to have 3 cycles in the top 10, and we're going to have a common cycle, an uncommon cycle, and a rare cycle. We're going to start off with the common cycle that didn't make it. From Future Sight, it's the Auger Cycle. And so basically, these were a cycle of creatures that had an ability. Basically, it had a spell-like ability. You sacrifice that creature, you get that ability, but you can only play it during your upkeep. So, for example, if I played the Emberwild Auger on my turn, I'm going to be able to... I can deal 3 damage to target player, but the window is so narrow. That said, if any of these guys were good, it's probably the Augur of Skulls and the Aven Augur. Those were probably the best ones. The other 3... Emberwild, there's an argument for it being reasonably good. 3 damage for 2 mana is not too bad. The problem, it's not just a power balance, but it's really just the narrow window. It's something that's very annoying to deal with. It's not exactly very friendly. No real reason to keep this cycle around when there's so many other cards you can fit in. So I can understand why it's not there. So that's number 10, the Auger Cycle. They didn't see it coming. Speaking of which, number 9, this one is part of a cycle. So the card that made it is Premature Burial. It's a 2-mana sorcery that if destroy target non-black creature that came into play since your last turn. So basically, if my opponent played the creature last turn, it's a viable target for it. Here are and that was from Time Spiral. Here are the Planar Chaos and Future Sight versions that didn't make it. The Planar Chaos version is Cradle to Grave, so 1 in the black. It's an instant. Destroy target non-black creature that came into play this turn, so even more narrow cycle. It was playing around alternate reality, so the shtick is that I can destroy a non-black creature, but it's only for now. Nowadays, this is what we would call very low power level, especially kept the non-black condition. Grave Peril, on the other hand, this one is on the line of annoying. So this is from Future Sight, 1 in the black for an enchantment. When a non-black creature enters the battlefield, sacrifice that Grave Peril if you do destroy that creature. So it's standstill for creatures that are not black. So if you play if you're able to draft mono black, you can just play Grave Peril. It's perfectly fine. But unless your opponent's also playing mono black, they're probably going to have to throw one creature under the bus just to get rid of this. So it's a case of one is too bad, the other is too good. Premature Burial was kind of just right, though. Frankly, I would have preferred some other removal compared to either of those. But can't complain too much. So that's number 9, the Cradle to Grave and Grave Peril. The siblings of Premature Burial did not make it. Number 8, another black card, Bridge from Below. You can ignore the mana cost because nobody actually cast this card. So this card had literally one function. It was to function from your graveyard. And what happened is, whenever a non-token creature is put into your graveyard from play, if this enchantment is in your graveyard, you put a 2/2 black zombie creature token into play. On the other hand, if an opponent's creature is put into a graveyard from play, you remove the Bridge from Below. But generally the idea of this, the combo idea was mill a lot of cards. Well, actually not mill a lot of cards. It's basically take advantage of creatures that have to be sacrificed at end of turn, or you have a sacrifice engine of your own. You generate a ton of creatures as a result. The usual suspect combo was self-mill. You got a few small creatures like narcomoebas and whatnot. You found a way to sacrifice them. You found a way to sacrifice them. Sacrificing them puts a ton of zombies in play. There's actually a standard combo back. I think standard Flamekin Zealot was in standard at the time. Yeah, it was essentially a standard combo, and you pretty much just dredged it up. It was not very consistent. It got more consistent over time in Modern and whatnot. Definitely not in Time Spiral Remastered, because let's be honest, nobody cast this card. In Limited, this was what we would call a really bad card. We'll save this for Modern revisits, Modern Horizons 2 maybe, or other master sets if we do get those come back. Anyway, that's number 8, Bridge from Below. Great card, but understandable why it's not remastered. Number 7, this time we have an uncommon cycle. This is from Time Spiral. This is the Totem Cycle. So, at first glance, can you tell me what do all these cards have in common? Give up? The only thing these guys have in common is that they're all rares on the reserve list. That's it. So the only way you're going to... So what you would do is you'd usually just cast this as a mana rock, but you paid its mana cost, as in like the original Thunder Totem was Thunder Spirit. It was 1 white. That was its mana. That was the mana cost of the original reserve list card. So you'd pay the mana cost, air quotes. Then you'd get then you would get it as the creature version for that turn. So very highly inefficient. Also very much all over the place. Pretty much the only good ones were Phyrexian Totem, Phoenician Totem, and Weather Seed Totem. There's an argument for Thunder Totem, but it wasn't that highly powered. Chronotog Totem has the distinction of being intricately weird, but nobody really wanted to play it. I guess they did not want to make a Leviathan Totem. Imagine the activation cost on that. So I can understand why it's not there. Also, for those who are wondering about Weather Seed Totem, this is what the original looks like. So it's just a case of bad angle or a relatively horny engraver, but that is probably you probably have an award for most unfortunate angle for a totem. That said, that's number 7. The Totem Cycle really it didn't quite make it. I understand why. It's not like we were hurting for mana rocks. Number 6, this one was actually also an all-star in standard, Garden Hellkite. Now the reason this one actually saw play was pretty much because of one card from the time shifted sheet, Dragonstorm. So back then the deck was a Dragonstorm deck. You would storm out for 4 copies of Garden Hellkite, who happen to have the ability to deal 5 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and/or players. Usually the storm count was storm count's usually 4. There would be copies of Hunted Dragon as a backup in case you happen to draw one of these. We do have the future shifted Angel. Basically it's the white version. It had Convoke and you gained life instead. So it's a shame we did not get Bogarden Hellkite in there. I would have preferred one that ended the game rather than making the game last longer. But that said, I don't know how much either of these would see play in regular limited. But yeah, I would have preferred a bomb like this over the Angel we got instead. Shame that this didn't make it. Number 6, Bogarden Hellkite. Quite a few memories there. You can actually search up Pro Tour videos. Really featured there. It was mind number crunching gameplay. Number 5, Academy Ruins. Well, what we got in Time Spiral Remastered was Tolaria West, upshifted to rare. Yes, that wasn't uncommon. That was upshifted to rare. Well, but not the greatest offender. Being able to transmute for a 0 CMC spell, quite relevant actually. In limited, it was because of in limited not so much. We had the 5 cards that do not have a mana cost. You could transmute for those. It's probably more relevant in modern. Pretty much you used it as a way to grab your Pact of Negation your Pact of Negation before going off on your combo, so it was extra backup. But enough about that Tolaria West. Let's talk about Academy Ruins, the other future of the Tolarian Academy. So what happened here is, well, I guess it's a case we did not exactly get that many artifacts to play around. And let's be honest, the only artifacts that played with Academy Ruins was pretty much Mind Slaver, and that is definitely not on the set. And it's a shame we didn't get any artifact lock synergies there, but it pretty much makes it understandable why Academy Ruins didn't make the cut. Number 4, Mishra Artificial Prodigy. Once again, Mishra gets the short end. Maybe it's because he's a tree color legendary creature. None of the planar chaos dragons made it either. It's probably for that, but it's also probably because of the requirement that you play an artifact spell and that you can search for one with the same name. So very interesting. Mishra did not actually get reprint. It's probably overdue for a reprint, or maybe not because it's not so great. That said, Mishra always gets the short end, and this time it's no different. Poor Mishra, but we'll just have to make do with it. That's number 4. Number 3, we come up to the rare cycle that did not make it. This one is the Grandeur Cycle from Future Sight. So basically, this is a cycle of legends that if you had extra copies, you can discard the extra copy to have an effect. So let's take Corlash Heir to Blackblade as the biggest example, because it was probably the best one in the list. So Corlash Heir to Blackblade has power and toughness equal to the number of swamps you control, has a regenerate ability, but if it's on the battlefield, you have another copy of Corlash in hand, you can discard the other copy, search your library for up to 2 swamp cards, put them on the battlefield, tap. So if you have a full play set, you can play 1 Corlash and you can discard the other 3. Boom, 6 swamps. +6/+6 while you're at it. The other legends had similar abilities, although not exactly equal power level. The reason they did not make the set is also, well, for Time Spiral Remastered, because it's a rare cycle that depended on you having other exact copies of the same rare, so not a great fit for a limited set. As for why we don't see Grandeur again in such a long time, it's because it's one of those weird things where in between this time and the time now, we've had many adjustments to the legendary rule. If I remember correctly, the legendary rule back at this time was if multiple people played the same copy, all copies got annihilated. Now it's not so much, so now the rules are slightly different, but also we have way too many legendaries as well. That said, I am not opposed to seeing Grandeur again, maybe in a set where we have a lot of uncommon legendaries again. It would be an interesting way to give certain legendaries a life in Constructed. But otherwise, it's probably a case of being too narrow and not exactly necessary anymore. So, victim of the times. So number 3, the Grandeur Cycle didn't quite make it. Oh yeah, by the way, these are all supposed to be descendants of famous characters in Magic. Number 2, we have TIMBERMARE. So TIMBERMARE here, this one is actually in a day and age when we're only starting to get what we call vanity cards. This one's technically not a vanity card. This one's what we would refer to as a dedication or a memorial card. So TIMBERMARE by itself, not very spectacular. It's essentially a plane shifted, color shifted version of Thundermare. So it's basically Thundermare with Echo. So the original Thundermare was 5 and a red with haste, comes in play, tap all creatures. I don't think it had Echo. But this card was actually made in dedication for one pro player's wife. So the pro player in question was Jamie Wakefield, his wife Marilyn. She was well beloved by the community. Unfortunately, she passed on very early due to ovarian cancer. And a year or so later, they made this card as a tribute, because her nickname was actually Mare because of her great love because of her love for horses in general. And the card was it was made as a green card because Jamie Wakefield was well known for being I wouldn't say a mono green player, but he definitely played green a lot. That was his favorite color. So it was a tribute both to Jamie and to Marilyn. Also, the flavor text, considering all the text that's on this card, it took them a while to fit this flavor text here, but also in dedication for Marilyn Wakefield. So a bit early to post this. Her death anniversary is on May 23rd, but it's nice to know that in this time and age when people get cynical about what kinds of cards get reprinted, we can sometimes still print cards that if nothing else can be a dedication to one person, and it's very meaningful. It's a shame that the original article because Jamie got to preview this card. He wrote an article for it on Star City Games, but unfortunately that article cannot be found. It 404, but there is some reference to that article in in his blog and in another article. I'll post that in the description. That's number 2, TIMBERMARE. Number 1, a common, Sprout Swarm. If you've read the article on why this was not printed, you'd probably understand this. But the interesting story here is that when this first came out in Time Spiral Block Limited, this was the one card that you wanted to pick the most. In fact, this was the time when Future Sight would be the last set, would be the third set to be drafted. So it's like Time Spiral, Planar Chaos, Future Sight. It was still the old root order of drafting. One interesting strategy would be to pretty much draft with a foot on green and anticipate getting copies of Sprout Swarm, because this card essentially fueled itself. It was very good late game. It came with a single card. It was actually, especially the combination of Convoke and Buyback, it was possible to basically have an army in the can. You just needed to precede your board state a little bit. Say 3 mana, 3 creatures. You would be able to end of turn make a Saproling, end of turn make a Saproling, end of turn make a Saproling. If nothing else, if you advance the board state a little bit more, you might end of turn make a Saproling, make a Saproling. It could easily go out of control. The story was that they obviously knew it was never going to make it as a common, so they play tested it, upshifted as uncommon, still busted. They upshifted it to a rare. It was still causing problems. There was actually a point when they considered making this a mythic. Imagine, common to mythic. That would have been the biggest jump. And it would probably be one of the worst mythics to open, considering that this used to be a common, so imagine the price on that. But saner heads prevailed and they decided, you know what, let's just not deal with this at all. Let's not include this. So there we go, that's number 1. Sprout Swarm. The most deserving card to not make it into Time Spiral Remastered. May we never have to suffer from it again. So there we go. That's it for this episode. So if you like what you saw, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on notifications and whatnot. I hope you guys enjoy opening Time Spiral Remastered. From what I hear, it's almost impossible to get on paper. So best of luck on MTGO, perhaps. That said, thank you very